This is just a quick overview of how you can use this geocoding tool that I've created. So it's pretty much the same process that you went through in Lab 4, but it's just a little bit more versatile and flexible. So in order to set things up, it's the same process as we did in Lab 4. So I just linked to the setup page on the Lab 4 instructions for details. You're going to be using the UBC server for this, or again, you can use your own installation of Python if you want, but you might have to install a few more packages. So go to the server, and the one important thing to note is when you do the git clone statement, you have to clone this repository, not the Lab 4 repository, so use this command. So again, you're going to have to open a new terminal. First step is just going to be git clone. And then pip install geopy. Then everything should be set up and ready to run. You can go back here, you'll see the geocoding tool and this geocoding with Python notebook. So you're going to need to, again, paste your API key in here. So you can just do that. And then everything should be set up to run. So I've included 2 test data sets in here that I'm going to walk you through some examples of geocoding with, and then I'll show you how to upload a file yourself. So let's just look at test data 1. So provided you paste your API key in the right place, this will read your data file. So you have to specify your input file name. This is just test data 1. And then specify whatever you want your output file to be named. Otherwise, it's just going to be called output.csv. So the data has to be in .csv format. You can do that with Excel. There are plenty of other formats you can work with, but like just for ease of setting this up, I set it so it's just CSV. So we'll run it. Take a second. Got an error message. So let's try restarting the kernel. And everything worked fine. So if for any reason you get an error message, sometimes things on this server get a little glitchy when you first set things up, just restart your kernel. It's really easy to do. You just go kernel, restart. So we can see that this data has the address, the city location, state/province, postal code, country, and then just a variable name that we don't really care about. You could have plenty more here, but the important thing is this .head function just prints the column so you can see what you've got to work with. So the way this code is set up is you specify the location columns you want to work with. So this is set up to work for test data 1. Test data 1 has address, city location, state, province, postal code, and country, and those are detailed here. And then you can add some data like the additional info. For instance, if the record is missing a country column and every instance is in Canada, all you have to do is delete those 2 things and it will add Canada for you. If you're working with data in the US, you can type in United States. If everything you're working with is in Vancouver, BC, and you just have a column of addresses, you could type Vancouver, BC, Canada. Right, so lots of different options. This one has everything we need, so I'm just going to leave it blank. But this block is meant to show you what your geocoding attempt is going to be formatted like. So you specify the location columns, any additional info. Again, anything that's behind a hashtag is commented out, which means it's just invisible to Python, so it just sees this quotation mark. And the attempt is just going to be each of these records plus any additional information joined with a comma and a space. And so this is the format: address, comma, city, location, comma, state, province, comma, postal code, comma, country. And so this will be the format that your attempt is in. This is just to help you see what you're going to be submitting to the geocode. And then the next step is similar to Lab 3. It's just going to create the empty columns. And then this is just a progress bar. So it'll show you as you go along. And then it's going to go through all the attempts. If anything fails, it's going to report it. And that's it. So we'll just run this. Goes really quickly because there's only 4 records in this column or in this set. Everything geocoded fine. The last step is to just make a map, check the results. So we can see that we've got 4 locations. You click on it, it'll tell you what your attempt was. So it's going to tell you, this will help for quality control. You can click on it and it'll see exactly what was submitted to Geocoder. So a couple different addresses, different countries, provinces, everything works fine. You'll notice that this works fine even if there's some missing address data. For instance, Jasper National Park, Alberta is missing the postal code and the address, it still works. So this is what it looks like if everything works fine. You got test data 2, which is formatted differently to show you an example of what happens when things aren't necessarily formatted properly. So this data has some issues. For instance, it does not specify the country. Secondly, there are some records with spelling errors. There's records with data that just doesn't make sense. And then we'll see what happens when you're not specific enough as well. So what happens if you search for Jasper National Park AL? So we can see that this has address, city, prov, and state. So we need to change these column names to match that. So again, you just do brackets with each name in quotation marks, separated by columns or commas. So whatever data you're working with will likely be formatted differently than the data I'm giving you. So this is just how you can do that. So let's just leave it as is without specifying any extra info and see what happens. We run this. This is going to be the format of our attempt. We query it. We see everything geocoded. We run it. But where do our records end up? So we've got these different records that end up in weird places, right? So the geocoder is going to try to locate something, whether or not it makes any sense. And so we can see that Stanley Park, Vancouver, BC works fine, but Jasper National Park, AL, doesn't work so well. I'm going to turn off the satellite map so we can look at the, also just a side note, your Mapbox API key gives you access to the satellite base map, which I think is kind of cool. So I just included that here to show you. But you can turn that off simply by closing the parentheses and run it again with just a standard base map. And you can zoom in. And for instance, this record in Alabama, Jasper National Park, is actually in a little town called Jasper, Alabama. This record, 100 block, West 10th, BC, not descriptive enough to figure out where things are. So in order for this to work properly, if you want to search for Jasper National Park, you need to type out the word Alberta. You can restrict things a little bit by adding more information. You can add additional info with this comma space Canada. This is what your attempt will look like now, and we can see how this will work then. Still not going to work perfectly. For some reason, it still thinks that Jasper National Park AL, even with Canada on the end of it, is actually in Alabama. But if you type out Alberta, then it works fine. So this is just to highlight how important it is to be specific and to make sure that things are formatted properly, right? So if you type out the province names and make sure that everything works fine and is specific, then it should work fine. But it is also important to do some quality control checks. So now I just want to show you how you can upload your own data. For instance, if you go to the input folder, which is where this thing's going to look for the data, you can go to the upload button, and this will open up a dialog where you can upload your own data. So for instance, I've got this location data from the survey that you all took at the beginning of the term. I'm going to upload this here. Now I'll just call this locations to the new file that you uploaded. So everybody just typed out a blurb about where they are. Some people formatted it quite nicely. Some people wrote sentences. There's a variety of things that were entered here. But the point is that the only address column we have is location. So that's all we type in here. This is all our attempt is going to look like. We can run it and see what's going to happen. So 3 of them did not work. Somebody typed out, I'm currently in Vancouver, British Columbia, followed by some more stuff. Didn't work. The slashes, the geocoder does not like slashes. So it said the geocoding failed for 3 instances. We'll check the results to see what happened. Zoom out a bit. For some reason, it thinks South Vancouver can be A. This question is pretty cool. Is in Iceland. But it works well if the records are formatted properly. If the records aren't formatted properly, it just gives its best guess as to where something is. So again, if you're going to geocode, you want to try and make sure that ideally you're going to have like address, province, country columns, right? It's better to have multiple columns of things that you can feed rather than long sentences. That way it's easier to format, but this is just to say you want to make sure to quality control both what you put in and what you get out to make sure that your results are actually trustworthy.